All right, folks, today we are going to talk about the Wisconsin judge who was arrested. And I know this story is a couple of days old, but we're going to catch up on it now. And I want to explain how that I go about doing things here on the channel. Sometimes when a story like this breaks and there's so much information and so much misinformation just floating around out there, sometimes I will give stories a day or two to kind of see where they go before I chime in on it. I applaud those who can immediately react, but sometimes I'm the type that needs to sit back and think about it and study about it myself and develop an understanding about it, and that was what happened here. I'm going to read you an article that's a couple of days old from Axios. And then I'm going to give you my opinion on why this type of thing really can't continue to happen and how I feel about Kash Patel and the Trump administration and what it is that they're going about doing. But I really appreciate everyone for your support here on the channel and for supporting how I go about doing things. That's just my style. And I like to wait until I have a little bit more information before I dive in head first. So here we go. We're going to talk about this one, and I'm going to read you this article here. If I can get this thing pulled up real quick for you. Here we go. So the FBI arrests Wisconsin judge for obstruction of ICE agents, Kash Patel. So FBI Director Kash Patel said Friday that his agency had arrested a Milwaukee judge who had allegedly tried to help an undocumented defendant avoid arrest. Now, why it matters. Hannah Duggan, a Milwaukee County Circuit Court judge, was arrested on charges of obstruction of an immigrant arrest operation, Patel's post said. Now, Duggan appeared briefly in federal court Friday before she was released from custody, the Associated Press confirmed. Judge Duggan wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest. It was not made in the interest of public safety, said her lawyer. Now, Patel announced the arrest. I want to point this out here. Patel announced the arrest on the social media site X, but then he deleted it and later reposted the announcement after Duggan had appeared in court. So, this is what Patel had to say. We believe that Judge Duggan intentionally misdirected federal agents away from the subject to be arrested in her courthouse, an illegal alien to evade arrest. That's what Patel had to say about it. He said that the immigrant is currently in FBI custody. Now, the Journal Sentinel reported this week that the FBI was looking into whether Duggan tried to help an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest after that person was scheduled to appear in her courtroom last week. In an email to judges, the Chief Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Carl Ashley said Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agents arrived at the Milwaukee County Courthouse on April 18th with an arrest warrant, according to the Journal Sentinel. Now, Ashley's note didn't mention Duggan or an FBI investigation into her conduct. His office did not immediately respond to Axios for request for comment. Duggan's office did not immediately respond to their request for comment. So I want to go now and play you this clip from Jamie Raskins, because Raskin, I always want to put an S on that. Sorry, it's a Southern thing. But I want to play this clip here from Jamie Raskin because I really think he brings some really good points about all that's been going on lately with the new Trump regime. Take a look.
I regard it very much within the prism of what we've been dealing with over the last month, which is an intense assault on judicial independence. They have been disobeying federal court orders systematically. They have incurred criminal contempt findings in the courtroom of Judge Boasberg, a conservative Republican judge. They have been demanding the impeachment of judges who rule against the lawlessness of the Trump administration. There are now more than 90 preliminary injunctions and temporary restraining orders against the chaos that's been unleashed on the country by the Trump administration. And now they're arresting judges. And the first felony criminal charge brought against Judge Hannah Duggan in Wisconsin is interfering with a legal proceeding, which is essentially what they've been doing all along. What Judge Boasberg is about to hold them in criminal contempt for, and has found that there is probable cause for criminal contempt, is that they deliberately ignored and defied his order not to take off in those airplanes headed for El Salvador and not turning the airplanes around. So on the logic of this arrest of Judge Dugan, all of the people in the Trump administration who participated in defying that order by Judge Boasberg themselves could be arrested for interfering with a legal proceeding and perhaps other criminal charges like kidnapping, as you were suggesting before.
He brings across so many good points in that clip. And if you go over to the dumpster fire that is X and you see the way MAGA is dragging this judge, they're sitting there sharing all these pictures mocking her, and they're saying that no one is above the law. And Kash Patel says, no one is above the law. And yet these are the same people who pardoned violent insurrectionists on January 6th. And I know there are trolls that watch my videos and says, when will Brando ever stop bringing across that point? As long as I have a breath in my body, I will continue to point that out and continue to remind people that that happened and that those criminals, those violent criminals, were pardoned and got away with it. So I really don't want to hear anyone talk about the rule of law when they had no problem with those insurrectionists getting a pardon. And when they are blatantly disrespecting courts and they're blatantly not listening to court rulings and just going full speed ahead with what they want to do, they can't come at me and say we respect the rule of law, because they clearly don't. Donald Trump said he had to have immunity in order to be able to do his job, and the Supreme Court gave it to him. And now the Supreme Court's sitting back going, wait a minute, we just ruled for you to bring Garcia back from El Salvador, and facilitate him coming back, and you're not doing it. Well, no, he's not doing it, because when you gave him free reins, he took that to heart, and we tried to warn everyone that this is what would happen. So I'm not looking at it from the angle that MAGA's looking at it, like, boy, this corrupt judge is being arrested and she's getting what she deserved and no one's above the law. That's not how I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this as though Jesse and Frank James have now took over the railroad company, and they're telling us that there's all sorts of corruption in the railroad. Or, Billy the Kid, Bonnie and Clyde, people like that suddenly getting to become bankers and then telling us that there is corruption within the bank. The people that were being investigated, the people who had broke the law, the President of the United States himself is a convicted felon who, by the way, was found guilty by a jury of his peers. Okay? A jury of Donald Trump's peers is what found him guilty. Okay? And I know that his following thinks that's all fake news. They think none of that's true. They want us to believe that out of everything we saw Donald Trump do, they want us to believe that we didn't see it. And then they want to dig up stuff on people and arrest them and paint them as the criminals, and they expect us to roll with it. Well, those who are brainwashed and have drank the Kool-Aid and the Kool-Aid has completely taken effect of their brain, they can roll with that, but the rest of us aren't going to. We'll see what happens as this case goes forward. But, folks, the reason that this story alarms someone like me is because of the position I now sit in. And we all talk amongst ourselves, and we all know what could potentially be headed for us, because if a judge could be arrested, so can journalists, and so can YouTubers, and so can probably some dude just sitting in his chair giving you his opinion about things and reacting to things. When J.D. Vance says that they're the party of free speech and Elon Musk, they have completely bastardized that idea. When J.D. Vance says things like, oh, well, I believe that even the other side has a right to say that, let's see how far they really go with that. Because they fear people who can resonate with people. And eventually, I'm going to be saying this a lot more in my videos because I just see it being the road we're headed down. But eventually, more and more people are going to realize that those culture wars were worthless and that they didn't get them nothing but the ability to flex on Facebook for a minute. And when reality sinks in and the base starts to turn, and they are, a lot of people are. I'm going to be doing a video here shortly about Trump's approval rating being the lowest in 80 years. So it's going to start happening. And when it does, they're going to start trying to find criminals everywhere to lock up, to try to hang on to power. And that's all this was ever about, was them hanging on to power. If you want my honest opinion about it, and it's just an opinion, and you're free to agree or disagree with me, I think what J.D. Vance years ago was saying I'm a never Trump guy, I believe he's seen through Donald Trump. I believe he literally seen through it. I believe he saw Trump for exactly what he was. When he said Trump's taking us down a dark path, I think he saw it. I think he was smart enough to see it. But I think he went where the money went. I think he went where the grift went. I think a whole lot of them did that. That's why I'm never impressed when someone says, well, RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard used to be Democrats. Elon Musk. I think they looked over and said, hey, Jesse and Frank is robbing the trains and getting away with it. Let's join the James gang. I think that's what happened. And that's how this story feels to me. But we will see what happens as we move forward. And all we can do is just sit back and hope that we have a democracy left when this is all over with.